Hey, Mystic Michaela spiritual family. Welcome to Know Your Aura with Mystic Michaela today. I am going to talk about how personality does not die on the other side. I'm going to talk about readings that I've recently had, highlighting how those who've crossed over keep a lot of their personality quirks and ways and mannerisms. But first, hey, Scotty.
Hey, guys. All right, I'm going to start right off the bat here. Question for you. Okay, so you're saying personalities don't change?
Yeah, so I thought about this because I do all these readings and I'll bring up something I get from somebody on the other side, and sometimes people are puzzled. They're like, "Oh, they're not over that, or they're still saying that, or they still are concerned with that." And it is true. And I'll say to people in readings, "Oh, I find it comforting a little bit that they don't always change." This isn't always the case, but usually you don't change. Like you keep that with you.
Yeah, I was worried that's how you were going to answer that question. And because there's a lot of things I do really want to let go. And, I came up with a couple. Maybe we just go over these and tell me what you think. Okay. Just tell me things. All right. So we're going to pretend that, I passed. Let's knock on wood.
Awful.
Everyone knock on wood.
Oh, knock on wood.
And we're also going to pretend, and obviously I have to pass, everyone does, right? We know that.
Okay.
Until they come up with something else, right?
You want to cryogenically freeze yourself?
We're just going to assume this is like in the future and nothing has changed.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so just play along. All right.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So all right. So the first question, do you think could change? Everyone knows I hate reality TV.
Yeah.
I hate all those shows. Do you think, you're going to be watching TV because I'm assuming you're still around?
Wow.
Do you
really
think
sad?
Yeah, it's kind of sad. Do you think that I'm still going to tell you from the other side to change the channel or give you a red rant? I don't know. Would you be able to even hear that?
I'm glad you're bringing this up.
Yeah.
I'm going to make this make sense because what you have to look for when somebody you love crosses over is the way that they come through is going to have a lot to do with their personality. So you're saying that with TV shows that you don't like on, that one of your things would be when I'm watching, for example, Dance Moms with the kids, you just shut it down.
Yeah, exactly.
So we know that when the cable doesn't work, when we're watching our stupid reality show, if it turns off, we're like, Scott.
Right. When you'll be watching yes, exactly. Secret Lives of Mormon season 25.
Right.
And I'm going to be around and I'm going to turn that TV off.
You're just going to shut it off.
Whatever device.
And we know whatever device at that time, hologram television, we're watching.
So do you think I'll still be doing that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That would be a sign that would make sense. Correct.
All right. So what about this? This, you guys all, you all call me cheap. And obviously I'm not. I'm the furthest thing from it. It's kind of a...
Well, you refer to yourself as Mr. Big Bucks.
Yeah, I'm Mr. Big Bucks. You guys all call me cheap. And I know it's not true. You guys, we all know it's not true.
Okay.
But you think, when I pass and I go up there, they're going to call me that up there too? Or do you think do you think that'll change for me?
I think for sure you won't be showing up as dimes and pennies. A lot of people will see dimes or pennies from their loved ones. That won't be you.
Right. You're going to find 50s, $50 bills.
Right.
But then again, it'll be way into the future. So that could be
that could
a penny.
Just be a dime or
with
a
the
penny.
Inflation, that could be a dime or a penny.
It is crazy though. You do as a person leave. And we've talked about this in way past episodes. One of my pet peeves with you is when you have change, you don't like it in your pocket. So you leave it places for other people to find.
Yeah.
You'll put it on you'll leave it in the self-checkout area, or you'll put it on a counter. I see you all the time. You just leave them places by the soda fountain or whatever.
Yeah, I thought that was me being nice.
So I could see that as a sign of you in the future. If I see God forbid, but if I see coins and stuff here and there in random spots and I think of you, I would be like, all right, that's probably Scott.
Okay. All right. What about award shows?
Okay.
I mean, there's nothing worse on earth other than things that could kill you, like war and things like that.
Okay.
And disease and things like that. But there's nothing worse that can't kill you than an award show.
You're there's obviously worse things.
Yeah, there's
but
worse
really
things.
The worst thing is award shows.
Yeah, I mean, right. Wars are worse, disease, all those things are worse, obviously. But of things that cannot kill you,
this is a contributing factor to how bad the world is today would be award shows.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Award shows are the worst thing on earth. non-lethal. They're the worst non-lethal thing on earth. Award
Right.
shows, whatever it may be. Do you think? Well, first of all, two questions. Do you think they're still going to have those up there? Like we have to like praise Sabrina Carpenter or someone like that for doing nonsense, or
Yeah.
or will I get over it? I want to be over it. I don't want this anymore. I want to get rid of it.
You want to let go of this disdain you have.
Yeah.
It's a burden to you.
It
really.
is. I mean, just to watch these people with their overinflated egos their egos go growing and growing and growing.
Can you imagine on the other side if there's like award shows?
Oh, that's what I'm saying. I'm just praying like that there's not.
Like who crossed over best or something.
I don't need to see Billie Eilish get another award up there. Like I'm done with that here. No.
It's the great equalizer. There's no such thing over there,
Okay.
Like, so I don't think that exists over there.
So you're saying up there they might give awards to real people like nurses and teachers.
Yeah.
And firefighters and.
Because then the 5D like energy works differently.
Okay.
It's really, like we always say, killing it in the 5D versus killing it in the 3D. You put in the time here, you're really killing it in the 5D. And you have kind of perks on the other side because of that. Like you don't have to sit in certain timeout sections as long as others or whatever. Maybe you just kind of move through whatever processes are over there quicker because you've already done a lot of that 5D work over here.
Yeah.
But I would assume there's no awards.
I mean, that is my true dream.
I hope.
Like, that, teachers and nurses are put on a pedestal up there. And then people like, who like are so idolized here, not great people, are like just like bowing down to them there.
So like you're saying you're at the pearly gates or whatever.
Yeah.
And you got your cup of coffee.
Right.
And you're just sitting there.
Yeah.
And you're like, who's coming in today?
Yep.
And Taylor Swift walks through and you're like, well. Looks like we're in the same spot. Oh, I'm in your presence. Didn't have to pay VIP.
That's right.
That's like your dream?
That's my dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my dream. That is a dream.
She's like, who are you?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah.
All right. Well, what more? What about music? I mean,
okay.
I think I have great taste in music. I think my music's the best. But apparently in this household, everyone thinks it's like outdated.
No.
It's not so great.
We let you have. The problem is
that?
around here we have playlists. We like to make playlists for things.
Yeah.
And the playlist is supposed to fit a vibe. So if it's like a beach playlist, it's supposed to be kind of beach music. Or if it's like a road trip playlist, it's supposed to be road trip music. You have the same songs and you just put them on every single playlist. Like Jimmy Buffett, The Last Mango in Paris is going to be on any playlist, whether it's 90s vibes or like Y2K or Key Largo where it would fit mix. It's there. So, but back to the subject of today. I do feel that a way that people come through is through their music. So that is something that you can connect with loved ones on the other side via like playing music that they like to play. Or if you start hearing songs over and over again that they themselves were really attached to, like for you, The Last Mango in Paris by Jimmy Buffett, you could assume later on like, hey, that's a sign.
Okay. And do you think it's possible that when I'm up there, I will like, start dancing to Pink Pony Club? Like, I'll actually think it's a good song. Or no, that's not.
I don't know.
I forgot who sings that one. Chappelle. Chappelle. We don't know her name.
It's Chappell.
Chappelle Rowan.
No.
And Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran.
You're right.
So, do you think actually I pronounce Ed Sheeran's name correctly in the other world?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's take a quick break. You'll come back and talk about it.
Know Your Aura with Mystic Michaela is brought to you by BetterHelp. It is spooky season. Halloween's right around the corner, right? And it's a time when we can think about what scares us and have fun with that. But think about it. What really scares you? Confrontation, trying new things, speaking up for yourself. Therapy is a great tool for facing your fears and finding ways to overcome them, because sometimes the scariest thing is not facing our fears in the first place and holding ourselves back. I have used therapy throughout my life, and it has really helped me overcome many little fears that were holding me back. I've used the lessons from therapy sessions from years ago, still today. And I'm telling you, if you are thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's convenient, flexible, suited to your schedule. You fill out a very brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/KYA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/KYA. Personality does not die when you die. And that is something I learned doing mediumship, because I don't think this is talked about enough, or maybe I'm just not noticing it being spoken about. But the biggest thing that I've learned is that, people on the other side, they can send you signs and they can come through mediums, and you can get your own intuitive connections with them. But it's always going to be affected by the person's personality. So if it's something that they would say or do or find interesting or relate to or resonates with a life purpose they had or something, those are the things to notice when they send you signs, when they send you messages, or when you find yourself looking at places that they themselves were interested in. That's where you're going to see a lot of their energy show up, because it's easier for them to connect that way too. So personality is memory. Memory is how we connect to people on the other side. It becomes a shared space in which the energy from the other side, it's easier for them to come through. So this is important to remember. And that's what I wanted to talk about in this episode. And I wanted to highlight some of the recent mediumship stories that I have from real readings I've had with all of you, and just kind of focus on the personality coming through. And I just want, again, when we remember our loved ones who've crossed over in ways that make them feel alive, that is just a huge attractor for their energy to visit you and send you signs. Like I said, personality usually stays, and I feel that they keep their personality. They keep the thing that made them who they are in this most recent lifetime, because they want to stay connected to you. They want to relate to you. It's their way of staying reachable on the other side until you're with them too. And like I always say, I only get what they show me. Okay. Like I don't know any more than what I'm shown. They give me glimpses. Every time I do one of my mediumship episodes, they talk about how they give me glimpses. So these are glimpses. And I can just tell you what I see and what I've experienced. And you have your thoughts too, and maybe your hypotheses too. But this is what I wanted to share with you, because I feel like it's hopeful and it can improve your connection with people who've crossed over, especially if you didn't know them really well, which starts with my first story. So I had a reading with a woman, and her dad actually passed when she was only 3 years old. And I do a lot of readings like this. It's really hard when a parent passes when you're so young, because you have a memory of them, but sometimes you don't know what your memory is versus your idea of them was. And it's hard when when a mom or dad passes when you're so young, like this young lady who was only 3 when her dad passed, because you only get glimpses of their personality through other people's interactions with them. You're getting kind of secondhand accounts of who they were as a person, and it can make you feel removed from them, and it can make you feel like you didn't know them very well. And that can make you feel sad. But I want you to know that when they cross over when you're really young, it's actually extremely difficult for them as well. And they stay with you. Just because you didn't know them in their life doesn't mean they left. Like, they've been watching you, they've been with you, and they're very invested. So this woman, her dad passed when she was only 3. And I looked at his picture and I felt immediately like musicality, like very musical, artistic this way. And he was. She said, yeah, my dad was very musical. He played instruments and whatnot. And then she showed me a picture of her husband. And then I felt the dad coming through, very, very excited, like, oh, musical, musical, musical. like he's musical too. And it was true. Her husband was very musical. He taught music. He could play anything. He was really talented musically, just like her father. And all of a sudden, like the dad's showing me himself playing the drums while the husband's, playing other instruments. And he was giving me the impression of, oh, we're jamming out together like that, which was just his way of trying to come through and say, oh, I love your husband. This is exactly what I wanted for you. And I'm an empathic medium. So I get people's personalities and their feelings. And the overall feeling I got was, this is exactly what I wanted you to experience. You missed out on my musicality during your childhood. So as, a father who was very interested in music and loved music and wanted to have a relationship with his child centered around music and bringing her into that, he couldn't do that. And that really was sad for him when he passed. He couldn't have her grow up in a house filled with that music. But guess what? She married somebody who was exactly like that. And that was not an accident. And the dad was coming through showing me like he wanted this for her. He sent this to her, and they have a baby now. And now this baby's going to grow up in the home with the music the way he wanted his daughter to, but she couldn't. And it was just really important to him that this legacy of musicality was around. And in that, he wanted her to know he was present and he was there and he was part of it and he was joyful. And when they played music together and when this was filling the home, he's there too. And it just, sometimes words don't do justice to what that felt like, but it felt like a full circle moment for the dad on the other side. It was a piece of him in her life in this way. He wanted that for her, for his little girl, and now his grandchild can grow up with that. And I felt like he had a lot to do with this happening in her life. It was just really beautiful. I had another reading, and the woman I was reading had her own business, okay? And she built it from the ground up. And it, as you know, or you can imagine, being an entrepreneur is obviously a worrisome business. And she was very stressed, and she thought, even though her business is doing well, the feeling of security wasn't always there, and navigating the plateaus and all of that. And so she had some extra pictures she added. So when I do phone readings, I always ask for photos, and she had sent some photos at the end, and one was like an old picture, and I felt Grandpa immediately just coming through, and he was coming through so strong. And she said she didn't really know him so well, but he came in really strong, and he showed me that he too was an entrepreneur. And then she confirmed this. And he said, and sometimes they say things like directly, and this was his direct quote, "You are always scared when you care." And it was very powerful, the emotion he plugged into that. And she was just amazed by this, because he was actually such a successful businessman. He had this huge, crazy, very successful business in India. He was very well respected, renowned. It was not something you'd think anybody would ever be worried about. Like, how could you be worried about this? Like, Grandpa had this amazing, well put together business that everybody that made money and felt like a legacy business and all that. But he was scared. And he was saying like that he was scared underneath it all too, just like she is. And he was basically coming in to say like, yeah, that's normal. Like, you're only scared because you care. That's okay. And it gave her a lot of encouragement. Even though she didn't know him, that connection, well, she's in this entrepreneur space. So that's the other thing. Like when you're in a similar life space, or like let's say you're a parent or an entrepreneur, or you're, I don't know, going through school or something, someone on the other side, even if you didn't know them that well, that energy, that mindset you're in attracts you to them because that's their personality. That was their thing in life. So her being in this entrepreneur space really attracted a lot of her Grandpa energy, and he was around her a lot. And it gave her a lot of encouragement that he was saying that that's normal to be scared. And he was scared too, even him with this successful business. If he's scared, then that means it's not an indication of anything aside from really caring and really being invested. And I told her, to invite him in for help and assistance, because they love to do that on the other side, especially if you're in the same space as they are in. They can really feed you intuitive thoughts, or drop you great ideas, or help out with red tape situations when you're in the zone of thinking about something that they too are familiar with being the zone and thinking about it. Like attracts like, energy attracts energy, mindset attracts the mindset with people on the other side. Okay, when we come back, I'm going to talk about some more stories about personality coming through from the other side. One of my channel subscriptions raised its price, and I would not have known about it if Rocket Money hadn't alerted me. Did you know that most Americans think they spend about $62 per month on subscriptions, but the real number is closer to $300? That's a big difference. Even if just a couple subscriptions fall off your radar, those recurring payments you don't even know about can really add up. I don't think I would have realized that the subscription I didn't notice had gone up for a while. How much money would I have been wasting during that time? Well, thanks to Rocket Money, I'm no longer losing money because of subscriptions I forgot about. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's features. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/KYA. That's rocketmoney.com/KYA. rocketmoney.com/KYA. So, it's not just like the wonderful aspects of people's personalities that can persist on the other side. Sometimes it's also the more difficult aspects of personality that can very much persist on the other side. And I know that surprises people, because I feel like there's this idea that when you pass, all of a sudden it's, I don't know, you go through some sort of brainwashing and it's like, oh, wow. And you sprout a set of wings and you see everything in a different light. And that is true for some people on the other side. But honestly, if you were kind of feisty and, kind of difficult and a little stubborn in this lifetime, chances are that sure does continue on the other side. And I've talked about this in my other mediumship story episodes, that sometimes we put people in, I don't know, I call it the timeout, because that's all I could think of it. Some people who, really have to learn something and they have a hard time learning it, they can go over to spaces on the other side where it's like, okay, you're in a little bit of a timeout where you have to think about it before we let you move forward. So let me tell you about this story, because this one, I've been doing this a long time. And this happened recently and it really shook me up. Okay. So I had a woman now who was like my client. I had a call with a new client, and she's a grandmother herself and a mother herself. Okay. But right before the reading even began, I was sitting like I do in my office, meditating, lighting my candles and stuff. And I felt this woman's mom barreling in on me. I don't know how else to say it. It was very like, let me speak to the manager energy, like just coming in really strong. And I started getting anxious, nervous, stressed, palpitations. I was like, oh gosh, like some are easier than others, let me tell you. But this lady I could tell she was going to be a difficult, not my client that I was about to read, her dead mom on the other side was about to be a bit difficult for me. And I could tell. And I wasn't scared. I'm never scared of dead people. Dead people actually do not scare me. They're literally just people who have crossed over. So it's not like that. It was more like I didn't want to be talked to in a certain way. And I didn't want to, I could just tell, it's kind of like working in customer service when you see somebody walking up, because, I used to work in customer service, and you see somebody walking up to the desk where you're at and you just know, you're like, oh, okay, here we go. All right. Like you just know. And that was happening. So anyways, I knew I was going to get scolded. So the call started, and this lovely client, my lovely client was so sweet, and I couldn't even get through, because I always start with a prayer, and then I try to go into the, your aura first. I have my own formula, and I couldn't even get through it because the mom just starts literally screaming at me from the other side. Now, let me just explain this, and I've talked about this before, but refresher. Usually they don't talk directly to me. Usually I call myself the phone in mediumship readings. Like, they give me the message, I deliver it to you. I'm just the relay person. That's it, middleman. But she started screaming at me, and she was saying, I did my best. That was my best. I guess it wasn't good enough, very, and just kind of victimized and angry and already trying to control the narrative. And I told my client, I'm like, listen, this is exactly what she's saying. And my client was like, oh, wow, she's still like that? Still? Meaning, that's mom, but also no growth, like you think you'd die, like you're a little bit like calmer, like I'm still getting yelled at like that. And I even tried to stay away from the subject of mom, because anytime I looked at her picture or would come up, see, when I do a reading, I say this all the time, like I don't control the reading. I don't know what's going to come up when I start going. I don't know, but I was trying to circumnavigate the mom stuff and keep here. Let's look at your kids. Let's look at your grandkids. Let's look at your husband. Okay. But the problem is there's guides and then there's dead people. So what do I get when I do a reading? I talk to your spirit guides who are more interested in your life purpose and your voice and like what you came here to do and how different things shaped you or stunted you or presented challenges or whatever. And then dead people, that's like mom. The two very different and distinct voices. But the guides really wanted to talk about like, hey, how this is how your childhood connects to what you're going through now and personal relationships in your life and whatnot. But every time I started with that, the mom tried to interfere, and that didn't happen. No, like screaming. She didn't want me to validate any difficulties that the child experienced growing up and, dealing with a mom like this. And it's never a slam on family. And I say that if you've had a reading with me, usually I say something like this isn't a slam on family. This isn't a slam on parents. Like, listen, we're human. We do the best we can do. I completely 100% believe that. As a parent myself, I know I'm doing the best I can. Am I not doing good enough? 100%. I'm sure I'm not. And the difference is one day my kids will tell me that and I'll be like, you're right. I validate you, but not everyone does that. And I feel like it helps a lot more when you just are like, yep, you're probably right. I apologize. I'll work on it. What can I do? Let's evolve. But some parents don't. And this one definitely didn't. But anyways, so the client, she showed me a picture of herself as a child, and it just started again. And then and I'm like, well, I felt like you had to be a pleaser, just not even bad stuff. Just this is what happened growing up, and this is how it affects you today, and this is why you're scared of, displeasing people or whatever. And the mom she kept shutting me down. Then, and it was disruptive. It was literally like somebody screaming in my ear. And when I tell you I've never had a reading like that, like this shook me up. I was like, okay. Like this a lot. Towards the end of the reading, she's like, well, can you just look at my little sister's aura? And she sends me a picture of her little sister when she was a kid. So it's an older picture. And I was like, okay. And immediately the spirit guides are talking again, like, well, this is how her sister handled it. And this is why your relationship with your sister is the way it is, because of the way that you had the dynamics in the home. And mom freaked out. This dead person, I have to keep reminding you because she was acting like an actual person who's living, freaked out. The phone completely goes dead. My phone goes dead. And I'm like, oh. And I knew immediately the mom cut the call. I knew that. Not the client. The dead mom cut the call. I try calling back. My phone's actually completely dead. So I try calling back on my cell phone. It says this number's disconnected the first time. I try calling back again. It says some sort of robot, like, this is an unknown number or something. Like, so it's not letting me call. It's not even going to voicemail. It's not even ringing. I email my client like, hey, the phone got disconnected. Here's my cell number. Call my cell. She's like, I'm trying. I can't. And then we just emailed the rest, which was basically us both understanding that mom ended this phone call. And so I told her, your mom's real feisty and I don't think she's happy with me. And the client told me that she told her kids all this and they said, well, that sounds exactly like grandma. So, I mean, you could take it two ways. Like I didn't feel good after that. Oh, and I didn't even put this part in. It felt like they had her in timeout, but like, it felt like, I don't know how to say this. Like, in preschool, when you're not allowed to go to recess because you didn't speak nicely. So it's like, you have to stay here and have thinking time. You can't go to recess until you say sorry, like that. That's where it felt like she was on the other side. This woman's mother, it's very gentle and it's very safe, but it's also like, you have to stay here until you learn some things. And it was like, she was like this little girl. This mom on the other side was this little girl with her arms crossed, like, no, I'm not going to do it, like that. That's kind of felt like where she was coming from, and whatever that looks like over there, that's my feeling of it here. Man, I hope this makes sense. But that one shook me up because usually, one, they don't talk directly to me. If they do, I don't know, they say things that are funny, or it's not this usually angry. This woman was very, very angry. She didn't want her kid to have anybody talking about her. And she was really strong in spirit. So it shook me up for a while, to be honest with you. And I didn't like it because I felt bad. I felt bad that the mom, didn't feel that connection with it, like her daughter. But on the other hand, I mean, it was 100% her, and hopefully it didn't surprise my client that her mom was like this. It didn't surprise my client that her mom spoke like this, which I thought was kind of entertaining. I guess it's affirmation that there is more. If you take anything out of that there is more. It was just an undeniable exchange. Okay. When we come back, I have another story about somebody who had a more difficult or tougher personality on the other side coming through. You guys, I really hate shopping. I get overwhelmed very easily. There's so many choices. I don't know what looks good on me. And that horrible dressing room lighting, it is a personal attack. That's what it feels like. But with Stitch Fix, I get a stylist who understands my style, size, and budget, and they do all this shopping for me. Shopping and figuring out your style, it's overwhelming. When it comes to getting dressed, I don't always know where to start. That's why I love having a Stitch Fix stylist. She really knows what works for me. I get pieces that make me look great and get a real confidence boost. All I do is I give her my size, style, and budget preferences. Honestly, at this point, it's already on register and she knows me by now. I just order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription is required. And she sends me just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and styling tips. And then I keep what I love and I send back the rest. That's how easy it is. My stylist sends personalized pieces and then the fit is flawless. I don't know how she does it. She just gets me, and then there's no stores, no crowds, no stress. It's just a personalized look that I love. Stitch Fix makes it so easy. Personal styling for everyone. Get started today at stitchfix.com/KYA. That's stitchfix.com/KYA. Dysfunctional families and tougher personalities. I mean, these things do persist on the other side. And sometimes in readings, I'll say, I find comfort that sometimes people just don't change. I find comfort in it because at least, it's not so different over there on the other side. It's just energy continuing in a different form. And there is growth for a lot of people who cross over. And I feel like there's opportunity for growth. And I feel like there's places you go to heal and whatnot. But this is a story about kind of, a more dysfunctional family, and that still persisted. So let's talk about it. All right. So I was reading a woman and her dad passed. He came right in. He was quiet. He was kind of standing off to the side and not and again, I'm an empathic medium, so I get their personalities and I get kind of their vibe and I'll get their feelings. And he was somebody who would just, he'd show up, he'd be there, but maybe he wasn't a huge talker, which she confirmed that's kind of how he was. And he was still like that on the other side. He's definitely there. He might just not always have a lot to say. And he just kind of started raising his eyebrows at me, like, like how you do, like when you're raising your eyebrows at someone, like, well, you should know, like that. And I got the feeling that, ask her about mom, ask her about her mother, raising his eyebrows like that at me. And so I said all this, and I felt immediately that they were divorced. And she said they had been, early on, since she was like 4 or something. And he was, and then he said that he wanted, how do I put this? Because it was more of like a feeling. He couldn't be the dad that he wholeheartedly had wanted to be for her because the mom made things so terribly difficult. And that's what he said to me. So I said it directly to her, and she's like 1000%. I guess. And he was like just raising his eyebrows. He kept raising his eyebrows, like, ask the mom, it's your mom, talk to your mom, talk to your mom. And she said that lately, first of all, he always did that. He did an eyebrow raise. It was like his look. And she lately has been doing a lot of eyebrow raises at people when they've been, at work and whatnot. Like, did you just ask me that? Like that kind of like, are you serious? Are you being serious right now? Like to other people and to even herself when she would have thoughts about like, really, are you sure about that? So she was picking up her dad's personality quirk even before this reading. And then he came in with that little personality facial quirk of his own. And I thought that was cool. And and just so you at home, like when you do that, like maybe you say something that, you used to hear your grandma say, or your mom who passed say, or something. It's more than just repeating. It's a link, and they know it, and they're connected through it, and they do find it fun and funny. And so anyway, so I thought that was interesting. But anyways, so he was very close to his daughter. So he came through with just this feeling of friendship and gratitude and the closeness. And he showed me how in his last days, she just hung out with him, like visiting him, eating food, sitting on his couch, not always having to talk, but watching TV shows and being comfortable together. And he was showing me like how much that meant to him and how much he appreciated her. And he himself, and this is just real life, okay? He had made choices in his life that perhaps he wasn't 100% ready to feel sorry about in regards to his own health. So he had some self-destructive tendencies, and he didn't want to admit this, and he didn't want to stop it. He decided, this is my choice to do this. This is how I'm going to live. I'm not hurting anybody. And this is what I'm going to do. And that was his choice that he made himself. And he didn't want anybody to fix him. And he was very appreciative in a lot of ways that she didn't try to fix him. She just was there with him, and that's it. He was a very stubborn person, bottom line. And he, on the other side, was just reaffirming that, you know what, thank you for not trying to fix me. Thanks for just hanging out with me. And he just appreciated that she was with him instead of shutting him out like other family members did or bugging him to do stuff or whatnot. Now, this is hard, because I'm talking about addiction is what I'm talking about. And that's him talking, okay? That's not a therapist talking. That's not her spirit guides talking. That's her dad talking to her. And he was just trying to alleviate any sort of guilt that she might have had. Like, should I have done this? Should I have done that? Should I have dragged him here, dragged him there? He's like, no, I'm glad, I made my choice. This is what I wanted to do. Thank you for respecting it. That's what he said. Not saying that's right for everybody. I'm saying that's what he said to her. And I feel like he just kind of comes through with his humor now, and she felt closure at that. So I just felt that was interesting, and I felt that was something that is very raw and real. Not everybody gets fixed in this lifetime, and then they pass, and we're left wondering, like, should I have? And maybe on the other side, that's just how they wanted to do it.
Hello, podcast fans. If you're looking for a new podcast, if you enjoy articles, books, pop culture, and hilarity, try listening to the Brain Candy Podcast.
That's right. The Brain Candy Podcast has over 500 episodes of educational hilarity to satiate your learning needs. Just search for the Brain Candy Podcast on your podcast app or click the link in the show notes.
My next reading story is about a fabulous pink grandma. So I was reading my client. She had pink and yellow aura. And, her whole life, it was something that she got a little attacked for. If you've been around here a while, you understand that pink auras, they're just kind of themselves. And sometimes people can misinterpret it as being attention seeking, or they can hate on them or think that they're being, superficial, but they're not. They're just kind of like effortlessly fabulous. Like they can't help it. And they're not trying to trigger you. They actually want to bring you into it. How about that? They want to do it with you. But anyway, so, she was going through this, and one of the culprits in her life was her mom. Her mom was kind of always nitpicking her and was hard to talk to and very critical, and was very triggered by her daughter. And, long story short, this is just something that I picked up in the photos, and Spirit just wanted to validate for her. And she loves her mother, and her mother loves her, and they have a relationship, and it's fine. It was just something, it's a sensitive thing. And sometimes when that happens, you don't want to tell your mom everything, or you don't want to share with her. You kind of lose that confidant. You lose that safe person to talk to. She definitely had a relationship with her mom, and she definitely loves her mom, and her mom's there for her, but she couldn't share all these little nuances of her life. But her grandma came in, which was her mom's mom. Okay. And what was interesting was her mom's mom was also pink yellow. So immediately the pink yellow grandma says to pink yellow granddaughter, now talk about taking ownership on the other side. She said something to the effect of, I feel like I played a part in my daughter, which is this lady's mom, not feeling good enough. And she's a mom. And sometimes, as parents, what do? Everything's our fault, right? So on the other side, she was taking responsibility for this. And I feel like, she was trying to show me, I would say, the grandmother would say to her daughter, why don't you put on this? Or why don't you do this? Or why don't we go here? Or why don't you put on some makeup? And she sees now that her just trying to get her daughter to have fun or be interested in things that she was interested in, it made her daughter think like, oh, what's wrong with me? I didn't think of that, And then this daughter goes on to have her own daughter who reminds her a lot of her mom. And it's just kind of like the trigger issue. So she was really shown on the other side, the perspective, the bigger picture, how different people see things, which is why I love auras in general, because it's a way you can kind of look at it and then find common ground and find compassion through perspective, So my client who's pink yellow is now understands now, okay, my mom saw it in a different way. She was maybe triggered, or she felt insecure, or this wasn't something that she understood or made her feel bad about herself due to kind of misinterpreting her mom in a lot of ways, and then her mom not being understanding of that. So just the cycle of it all. And it was interesting, and I think there was like a lot of healing going on in this circle of these three generations of women. Through the granddaughter really understanding the aura colors. And I feel like she was really seeing how she was understanding through the different energies what really went on, and taking a step back, and instead of taking it personally, we can see things, okay, we're all just human, and maybe we can step back and see it with a different lens, and then build a relationship that's closer because of it, or let things go that really aren't about me. And it was really healing. So it was interesting. And the grandma got it too. And it was just funny because like the grandma, I feel like totally understood that she was pink due to being so close to her granddaughter and seeing her granddaughter understanding the aura thing and kind of going along with her. And this grandma energy just came in like really fun and fabulous. And then she said this, she said, you should have been named after me. That's what she said. And I said, oh, she's saying you should have been named after me. What does that mean? And I guess everybody, her mom, so the grandma and the daughter, or this lady's mom, have the same name, but they gave it to my client who I was reading as a middle name, not as a first name. And Grandma had an issue with that. And I thought that was hysterical that she brought that up. Hey, Scotty.
Hey, guys. All right. So another question for you.
Yeah.
So let's say, sometimes I have trouble with this, with the signs and bringing people that have passed, getting to their energy, right?
Sure.
I mean, especially me. I really have problems with that. So,
Right.
what are how could you do this? Like how, because I know there's probably people listening and they're like, well, I don't get any signs. I haven't gotten any signs in years, or,
Right.
they brush it off probably like I do. I'm probably a brusher offer of these things. But so what are some ways you could bring those signs into your life?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So remembering somebody is the fuel. Like remembering somebody, like really sitting in a memory.
All right, so let me try. So what right now I'm supposed to remember something. Let's take my grandma.
Yeah.
My grandma Annie. We'll take grandma Annie.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get a memory that I had with her. All
Yeah,
right,
remembering her, remembering how she made you feel, remembering just what she looked like, just anything, remembering something funny.
Okay, so she always used to give us Grandma Annie specials,
right?
We called them,
right?
And these were, I think I've talked about this in the podcast before. If I did, forgive me.
Right.
And we'd go there. We used to go she lived in Brooklyn. We lived on Long Island, so we used to go there twice a month or once a month.
Mm-hmm.
And she'd always have we called them Grandma Annie specials, and it'd be a bag of gifts,
right?
But they were the worst gifts you could possibly get. So one time, she gave us slippers, but they were made out of paper. So by the time we got home, the slippers were broken.
Right.
Or she'd get me, and I said this before, I think she used to get me she knew I loved baseball and baseball cards,
mm-hmm.
but she would get me tons of baseball cards, but all the bad players. So
right.
we used to call those Grandma Annie specials.
Right.
And we'd always laugh. It was all right. So there's a memory.
It was funny.
Yeah, it was funny.
It was really thoughtful of her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's something you look forward to, not because it was good, just because it was so random.
Yeah. And it'd all be in a bag. And basically, you're really hoping for it. At the bottom, there'd be some cash. So sometimes it'd be a $5 bill. And you're yeah. So,
right.
All right. So you're saying do things like that.
Just remember them, and remember also maybe lessons they taught you, or just even reflect. A lot of us don't do it. And the reason why we don't do it is because it's sad.
Right.
Right. It makes you sad because first you're like, oh, that was funny. And you're laughing. And then all of a sudden you're like, I really miss her. Under that is.
Yeah. We just joked, and now I'm kind of feeling a little down.
I feel sad.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of people, we don't do it.
Okay.
Because it's just kind of. It's sad, and then you got stuff to do today, right? So you're like, I gotta be busy. I can't do that. I can't sit in it. But literally, that is the energy that brings them in.
Okay.
And when you feel the layers of emotion starting to build, that's actually them connecting to you. It can feel intense. It can make you cry. It can make you laugh. It can make you upset. It can make you think about something else quickly. But it's kind of an anxious feeling because when you think about them, it attracts their energy to you immediately. It's like a beacon. And doing that is how you get signs. You got to kind of do it. You got to sit in it. You got to remember they're just feelings. They're just feelings, and the feelings will go, and it's okay. And you also have to remember, when I go, I hope nobody's, too sad to think about me. Yeah. So they want you to think about them. They want you to think about the good stuff, and they want you to think about memories like that. That's why they did it. And that's one way. Another way is do things that they liked to do. So let's say Grandma Annie specials. Let's say you start doing it for your grandkids one day. Okay. One day you have grandkids and you're calling them, you can call them Grandma Annie specials, or you can call them Grandpa Scott specials. And knowing that you're doing this, remembering her in the honor of her memory. I know your dad does this all the time to honor his grandma.
Yes, he does
because
that a lot.
He likes to take the kids to Broadway shows, which are down here, the Broadway shows here. And he did it, and he always talks about his grandma. So in honor of his grandma, he likes to take his grandkids because his grandma did that for him. All right, so kind of doing that.
Doing things that they did.
Doing things they did and saying, hey, my grandma used to do this, and I want to do this for you. It's a way to bring the memory to the future generations, and that attracts them too. Another way to do it is to do traditions that they would do. Bake the dish they baked. Okay, my grandma, she always made this casserole, and I'm going to find that recipe card, and I'm going to make it ingredient for ingredient. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to serve it at the next holiday, just like she did. So kind of do something that they did.
Ooh, see, I do the opposite on that one.
What do you mean?
So, like, my grandfather, now we're Grandma Annie, not her husband, so other side of the family.
Okay,
so
your mom's parents.
Mom's parents.
That was your
side.
dad's mom. Now you're talking about your mom's parents.
Correct.
Right.
So my grandpa would always do Passover.
Right.
It's a Jewish tradition, if you don't know, like the celebration of Passover.
Yes.
And he'd do what's called a Seder.
Mm-hmm.
Then my mom now tries to do it. And I admit, I am the biggest jerk when she tries to do it.
You are.
I never want to do it. I never want to do it ever again.
It triggers you.
I'm never going to do it ever again. Because I can't. I can't do it. So I'm doing the exact opposite what you just said. So am I doing it wrong here? Maybe this is not good.
I think
because I can't do it.
Well, because it hurts you.
He's the only one that could do it.
Right.
No one else can do it.
It was his thing.
No one else could do it. There's no one on earth that could do it.
It's, I think with traditions, it's hard. And I feel like every single person listening understands that because even for me, like I can't do Christmas like my grandma did Christmas. My grandma did Christmas. You know what I mean? Like that was.
But
I still will
do Christmas
in honor of her.
Right.
And I try to do it the way she did it, and I try to bring things into it, and I try to get excited about it. So I try to put my own spin on it. And I just can't see you doing that with this. But it would be something that I think if you told your mom, like, hey, I want to take this part over in the Seder and I want to do this one section of it. Because, there's sections in Seders,
right?
As far as I know. And if you're like, I'm going to do this one section, I'm in charge of this part. She'd probably be like, absolutely, please. And then you do it for grandpa.
Okay.
So that's kind of how, and it's hard because you might cry during it or you might get upset or you might feel a certain way, but that's really just the energy of them barreling in on you. And it can feel very intense and it can release a lot of vulnerability, but that's also where they live. That's also where they come through. And that's also where the signs start to get stronger and stronger and stronger. Okay. And it's hard. That's why a lot of us don't do it, because it hurts really bad. And then I've said this before, guilt is the barrier to our connection with the other side. Because sometimes, I don't know, you'll be like, I don't want to, for example, for you, like I can't do Passover anymore because that was grandpa's thing. And then I don't know, like weird things can happen. You could be like, oh, I should have called, or why didn't I see him at the end? Or why didn't I do this? Or that things come up because our ego tries to make us feel bad. And that is a wall to the other side. And all of a sudden I'm going to shut down. I can't think about it anymore. And then that shuts them out because they don't, honestly, anytime I read anybody, and I'm guilty of it too. So this isn't like Mystic Michaela knows everything. It's just like what I pick up from doing other people's readings that is for me always like, whoa, too. I do it too. It hurts to miss somebody. And that's the bottom line. So we try not to, but it's also what connects us to them.
All right. And let's say, after all that, you've done all that and you're still, because this would probably be me, because I'm just missing it. You feel you're still not getting the sign. Then how do you, could that still happen? I think it could, right?
Yeah, it can.
Especially
you gotta,
someone like me who's more logical thinking.
You got to just go with it.
Just go with it.
Honestly, like if you start seeing butterflies and you're like, it's grandma. And then you're like, okay, am I just making that up? Just keep going with it. Just never feel foolish to feel foolish. Okay. Like you go fall face first into it, because I'm telling you right now, the energy the dead people put into contacting us is so intense. It's better to put yourself out there for them than it is to not, because you don't want to feel dumb inside. Like I would rather put myself out for someone I loved and feel silly than not feel that way and potentially shut them out. Okay. And once you start seeing things and letting things in, and it might be hard at first because you might feel like you're making it up, it'll start getting synchronistic, which means so coincidental it can't be a coincidence anymore. Like so frequently coincidental that you're like, okay, forget it. I got it. You're here. Okay. There's no other explanation for that. So you just got to kind of go with it. It's hard though. It's
Yeah,
hard.
good. Well, it's great advice, excellent advice that you've given today. But all right, let's end on a very positive note.
Yeah.
In November, coming up pretty soon, November 15th and 16th.
Yes.
In Fort Lauderdale, we are having our Mystic Michaela Spiritual Family Gathering that we do. Yes, the gathering. We are a jovial cult. We've been doing this every year. This is the fourth year in a row that we've been doing this. We got a lot of people coming from we have a little Facebook group for it too, and we have people coming from all over the country and Canada. I saw people were coming from Saskatoon and as far as, I think, was it Vancouver or Washington State? I'm not sure. Vancouver, Canada. I can't remember. But people coming from all over, California, Colorado, you name it, and people are coming. And it's a really nice weekend.
So
a lot of fun. Everyone, real friendly. They meet each other. We got book signings. You're gonna do your presentation. We got a nice breakfast. Fun at the pool.
Right.
All these things. So, yeah, if you can make it, we'd love to have you. We have a few spots still available if you'd like to go.
Yes, and we have a private Facebook group for people who are coming, and so you can kind of connect with one another before.
Yes.
To really make it more jovial.
Yes.
Cult-like.
The jovial cult. Last year, the Mothman showed up.
He did.
I don't know if he's coming this year.
I don't know. You never know what's going to happen.
Last
Mothman,
year, there was photo opportunities with the Mothman.
It's crazy. Where else can you get a picture of the Mothman?
I know. He was the biggest hit. There was no one
it's
bigger
the
than that.
Mothman.
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
Like a paranormal event.
Yeah. That's who should get an award. The Mothman. There should be an award for the Mothman.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Best cryptid.
Best cryptid.
All right. Well, this podcast is for you and about you, and we're so glad you spent some time with us today.